when I was younger, me and my sister used to write quite a lot of stories, and I think that's why, and sort of like make believe stuff. I think that's where I learnt how to tell stories. I think that's where a lot of my influences came from. Just listening and playing. I think people don't play anymore. You had to think a lot more. You had to think and make stuff up a lot more. Now it's all sort of there. I used to read a lot when I was younger. And my dad used to always read to us. He used to come home relatively late, but I remember I went through all the Harry Potters. My dad read them all to me. I think that's super important because you don't you can't really learn. You don't learn that much about language and how people respond to it unless you can feel how you responded to stories or lyrics or whatever. I used to make my own radio stations as well. I used to have those little recorders, and you could press play, and they look like little phones. I used to make radio shows. Actually, sing down the mic a lot. I was pretty bad at it. He still actually does took me to galleries and read with me and listened to music. And I think whilst that's not directly related to me writing necessarily, I think it was so important because I saw so much more and understood so much more about culture, and just it was amazing because to have someone take you to those kind of things and those places in London is quite a big thing actually. One of my really good mates, he's an artist, and when he was growing up there was he would sneak off to go to art galleries, or he'd sneak off to write poetry or whatever, and I was really lucky because I had someone that would take me whenever I wanted to see something, even if it wasn't necessarily the coolest things we were doing on a weekend AJ, but I definitely think having that exposure to culture and what was about in London was definitely a big part of me being able to think and write for myself, I reckon. I think I don't take things that seriously, but I think that's a good thing. I sort of would write quite a lot, but I would keep it to myself. And then my friend James Messiah, he had an open mic night, and one day I'd written this really rude poem on my phone, and I thought it'd be really funny to say it in front of everyone, and it was really rude. And then I realised after I'd gotten up, because it was funny, and I'd gotten up on stage and I'd done it, I was able to sort of be able to laugh with everyone, and it kind of got me away from being scared of being on stage and in front of people because it was funny. It wasn't clever, it wasn't interesting, it wasn't brilliant even, but it was funny, and I think that made me realise that I could get up on stage in front of other people and say things that I'd written. I guess there's sort of there's power in being able to stand up and take it seriously even if it's not serious. So I definitely think that opened me up to being able to do it again, and then I guess I kind of thought maybe I'm good at this. I can't deal with the fact that I might be considered a spoken word artist because I think, well, I'm a poet. I think the problem with spoken word is that people, even myself, sort of think that spoken word is this thing where you're very preachy, and it's very much I'm going to talk about this and I'm going to tell you about this because that's how I think you should live your life, and that's what I think you should think. And as soon as you start getting into that, you're not speaking from your own experience, you're not talking about the things that you know, and how can anyone want to listen to that because there's no authenticity there. I think by putting myself in a situation getting on stage where I was super uncomfortable, I think that sort of, by getting over it and walking off and having everyone clap or laugh or whatever they felt about it, whether they hated it or loved it, I think it made me think it's not actually that hard. I think the most important thing about getting on stage and the power in it, I suppose, is you make everyone feel something. I want to be able to see someone else who thinks the same way, or someone else who's been through the same thing, and more often than not I'll write about something that's very ordinary and it's from my own experience, or it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, it's a little bit it's just relatable, and to be able to see people respond to that's a very powerful thing. And that's why I don't believe in spoken word artists like talking people down or preaching to them, because you don't get that same reaction. As soon as you tell me to do something, or that I should do something if I want to be a better person, or I want to be this kind of person, I'm going to shut off. And then you don't get anything back. There's no power in doing something like that. Whereas if you talk about, oh yeah, I went and did this, blah, 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 blah. It is so important to sort of realise the impact you're having. I've been to so many poetry nights that I almost stopped going, because like it's not about lyricism anymore. It's about making a point. And you're right, like even saying stuff like people making like political statements, or even like preaching anything really, is that you lose that sort of human connection. And I think there's such a fine line. For me, it's nice to see actually how people react, and it's nice to feel like you're having an impact. But I think also at the same time, it's you've got to be really careful, because it's almost like it can sometimes be a bit obnoxious, like, oh yeah, everyone's in the palm of my hand. That's not what you want. I think you just want people to sort of like enjoy what you're doing and understand why you're doing it and what you're saying and whether it relates to them or not. And so I think you do have to be really careful, because you're not up there to sort of like take it all in, like, oh, everyone should listen to me, or everyone like should feel what I'm feeling, because that's not the case. People enjoy storytelling. Yeah, you do want to be aware of how like you're relating to people, but you also want to remember that's not just about you. And we basically started doing this thing every month in this warehouse in Southwark, and we do it with like music and stuff. So when Maxwell Owen came down last time, and we just like, it was just a jam. And I think that's kind of like my style. It's like, it's more of a jam than it is a poetry session. Do you know what I mean? I've like worked quite a lot in like the creative industry, and like I'm quite young, but I've done a lot in radio. This quality I've seen certainly in artists, whether it's like MCs or DJs or whatever, is confidence. Like, if you have confidence and like you believe yourself in what you're saying, in what you're playing, in what you're writing, then surely that's the best thing you could ever have, because then everything you say or do or feel is authentic, because you believe in it. And if you don't believe in it, no one's going to believe in what you're doing or saying. Like, I've seen it so many times in radio. It's like, it's very much like they're in the zone and they're untouchable because of it, because they believe so strongly in what they're doing or what they're saying. No one can attack that. What I'd want is for people to be like, oh, hang on a minute, I actually write. Like, everyone's a poet, everyone can write something. And I think it will be for like people to be able to think, well, you know, if she's doing it, she's not taking it that seriously. She's, you know, not the best poet because I'm not. Like, I would want for people to like pursue what they actually want to do. And I think actually most creative people would probably want the same thing, but I would definitely want for people, young people, to be actually like, do you know what, I can do that, and I want to do it, and no one's going to tell me I can't. So I think that's definitely the best way I think I would want to affect people. Yeah.
That's nice.
Oh,
it's right,
saying the same thing as well. I used to do their show at Radar. 6 times. That was fun Friday nights. Yeah. But that's what I mean. Even watching those guys, like, you know, about like what they're doing. Like, sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm not really a poet. Do you know what I mean? I just sometimes like, no one likes that person that's like